Why the house is so creepy. The house was released a little under a week ago, and it's safe to say it's one of the creepiest things that the platform has released in a long while. I'd say this for a number of different reasons. The animation, the characters, and the stories. Let's break it down. Here is why the house is so creepy. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The first thing I'm going to touch on is the decision around using stop motion as the style of animation for the movie. The use of stop motion is something that I believe makes this movie have the level of impact and creepiness that it achieves, and it differs in each part for different reasons. In the first part, it's used in a way that provides a realism to the show, but whilst also being able to exaggerate and provide differentiation. We see the realism in terms of the environment and the surroundings and the textures on screen, something that other styles can't necessarily provide, but we see exaggeration in terms of the way the characters look and their overall appearance. The slightly larger, rounder heads with the small eyes and other facial features were quite a haunting sight to look at, especially when we would see the sheer panic and emotions on the characters such as Mabel and Mr. Thomas. It was almost like an illustration in a horror novel. Also, the clown-like devil feature felt even more haunting and prominently imprinted in the mind when seeing him in this form, rather than in a digitally designed style of art. It provides an element that feels like it has a tangible form, rather than make-believe. Strange but true. For me, it reminds me of actual objects that used to creep you out when you were younger, rather than something that would have scared me on TV. This thing could literally be sitting at the end of your bed because it feels more real. Something that other styles can't quite get across. In terms of the use of this style in other parts of the movie, the use of it in the part with the rat really added impact to what we were viewing. When there were close-ups of the main character, it would make me feel quite uncomfortable. Or when we would see the two house viewers refusing to leave, the emotionless expressions really translated across the screen, and you could sense the uncomfortableness in the room. Also, being able to see the bugs in the mass amount, and the finale when the transformation happened, it felt all the more powerful. It was the right choice of animation style for this movie. Another reason for creepiness being so prominent in this show is down to the characters and their behaviors. When we look at part 1, we have the family who on multiple occasions act extremely strange once they enter the house. Even the behavior of the extended family once they arrive in the opening act, they carry themselves in a way that makes you feel unsettled. The appearance of them, as touched on in the earlier section, is also a driving factor in this. The behavior of Mr. Thomas is something in particular that I think contributes to the unsettling nature of the movie in the first 30 minutes. The laughter, tone of voice, and expressions that this character gave off were so contrasting on multiple occasions. You couldn't keep up with his intentions that you found yourself lost. But I feel that was the point with this character. Laughter followed by extreme devastation and crying. You never quite understood what was going on in his head, and that was scary. Also, the blank expressions from the workers in the house. Like what we saw in the second tale with the rats that would refuse to leave. It was a common theme throughout. They didn't give much away, and that was the point. But I think a character that is often unspoken of in this movie is the house itself. The strength and power that this house had on multiple occasions throughout the movie, and also the fact that it was still standing at the end amongst the floods and devastation, showed just how strong it was. The house was made to feel like a character in this movie. The hold it had over people, the fact it caused the demise of almost everybody who came into contact with it, is something that can't be ignored. It was haunting, and with it being personified as a character, it brought it to the forefront even more. The final thing that I'm going to touch on are the stories in each section. Each individual story finishes at a point where the demise occurs and the characters are in a worse off position than before, other than the last tale. However, I don't feel that one had the creepy edge to it like the previous two that were before. We see the obsession take over Papa and Ma in the first tale, ultimately leading them to lose their lives and be burnt in a fire which was foreshadowed in front of our very eyes. And we have the rat who was once a civilized being regressing after obsessing about the house and the bugs that he was so desperate to destroy. He ultimately becomes one. Their pacing is just about right, and it reveals just enough to keep you on your toes, And to know that something is coming around the corner, a movie or show that contains a narrative that plays with your mind, is far more scary than one that relies on jump scares. And this is the perfect definition of that. It really does hit the nail on the head in terms of succeeding in its genre, and it's one of the best things to arrive in Netflix for a long while. Watch it, you will definitely be creeped out. So, there you have it. Why I think The House is so creepy. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.